Let us bring in Patrice Onwuka. She's the director of the Center for Economic Opportunity at the Independent Women's Forum, and she joins me now. Patrice, you heard Maddie there talking about, yes, today there's going to be a lot of fighting between Democrats and Republicans, out in the open. But if you listen to her report, she only mentioned Republicans, because at the end of the day, as Chad Pergram always reminds us, it always comes down to the math. So what are you hearing from your sources in Congress as to how close the Republicans are to hitting their number, coming together, and what specific changes are you hearing to specific provisions when it comes to this big, beautiful bill?
Good morning, Todd. I think there's a lot of energy right now in getting this done. The SALT deduction is probably the biggest sticking point when it comes to can you peel off some of those Republicans who are in Democratic states? Can you raise that cap just a little bit higher? Now, it's been raised significantly up to 30,000. I think they're still aiming for about 50,000. So whether there'll be a come to the middle meeting there, we might see. And then obviously some of the more fiscal conservatives are worried about the price tag and whether there need to be deeper cuts, particularly in some of the entitlement programs. But by cuts, I think it's more right sizing things like Medicaid to ensure that people who can work are working if they need to get Medicaid, and to ensure that, illegal immigrants are not getting Medicaid and other folks are not getting Medicaid. So I think those are probably the two biggest sticking points. But Todd, let's not forget there are a lot of family friendly benefits in this. The child tax credit is doesn't just remain doubled. It's plussed up by another $500 for 3 years in a row. Small businesses will see their deduction increased as well. So there are a lot of really good sweeteners in this bill that I think conservatives can get behind.
I think it's important that you mentioned the Medicaid, because I think the watcher at home needs to be laser focused on what the Democrats are saying. They're going to try to say Republicans want to cut Medicaid and Medicare. What Republicans want to do is eliminate the fraud, waste, and abuse in those programs, so that the American taxpayer is only paying for people who need it and not fraud, waste, and abuse. Meantime, in just a few hours, the Bureau of Labor Statistics will release its first inflation data since Trump's global tariffs went into effect. And look, the prevailing wisdom is that inflation is going to go up when this number is released, because this is the month, April, when, the tariffs took effect. But just anecdotally, sitting here talking to you, I really haven't seen that price increase on a number of the things that I buy when I go to the grocery store, mainly eggs. Eggs, in my world, have gone down. So are you expecting this catastrophic number that the economists are predicting?
No, I'm not. When we look at the previous month's CPI or inflation rate, we actually saw that it was pretty, we saw some disinflation when you dig deeper into the inflation numbers. Disinflation means for the first time we actually saw negative inflation. The prices were actually dropping. And so I don't expect a wild swing in the other direction. Why? There may be some particular areas and particular categories where retailers and some businesses were raising their prices in advance of the tariffs being implemented, but I don't think it's going to be widespread. So we'll have to see what comes out today. But that said, I go to the grocery store, I do all of our shopping, and I haven't noticed significant price increases. I've been waiting to see it. And energy prices, because they've been falling, have been a really great buffer to make that happen. We know that energy goes into the production and the delivery of the goods to our store shelves. So if they can continue to keep coming down and this big, beautiful bill passes, which has some permitting reform to spark more energy production, then prices will drop as well.
Finally, before we let you go, this was huge yesterday. Trump signing an executive order to slash the price of prescription drugs, basically saying if they pay a lower price in another country, you're going to pay a lower price here at home. Big Pharma, as you well know, is going to fight this tooth and nail. In the end, are you confident that the American people watching right now, and all the rest of the 330 million of them, are going to end up paying the same low price that every other person in the world pays for their drugs?
Yes, I do think it's important that it's unfair when we consider how much Americans have to pay for some of the very medicines that are produced in this country and compared to what those people in other countries pay for them. So I think the President Trump was trying to get at the unfairness. That said, this is not just about this executive order. This pairs with other efforts towards greater price transparency in ways that will spark innovation and in production of pharmaceuticals. I don't want the unintended consequence here of what could people view as a price control to be less innovation and fewer drugs. I do think, though, it's time for us to cut out the middlemen and find ways to make sure that we're innovating and providing those cost savings for Americans.
And also, admittedly, the cost on our friends in other countries of these drugs is going to potentially go up to cover the R&D cost. But that makes sense. We shouldn't bear 90% of that cost while the rest of the country gets the freeload, especially to your point, when those drugs are being made here in the U.S. Patrice Onwuka, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Todd.